Hey mate, great to catch up again. I see your favourite fighter is here, or a fighter that you've taken a lot of interest in, and he's becoming one of New Zealand's favourites too, Ronu.
Yeah. I mean, gosh, looking for a guy that's coming in, who speaks very little English. He's fit in perfectly, just in terms of the attitude. He's a bit of a larrikin. I don't think necessarily the traditional sort of regimented Chinese way of doing things suited him at this stage in his career. So coming here, I think's worked well for him, and he's fitted in well, sort of culturally. He knows a lot more English than he lets on, and he's a great talent. And it's great to have guys like him already with 30 odd fights to his credit, and on a second run in the UFC, coming here and showing some improvements. So we're pretty happy about that so far.
Great rapport between you and him. I know the coaching bit and that, but the camaraderie is there as well. You think that's what suits him?
Yeah, look, I think that it's a big part of it. Again, certain fighters thrive under certain cultures and certain conditions. Rong is a guy with immense talent. He's probably more talented than, he's been the most talented guy in the gym in 98% of the gyms he's been to previously. And coming here, working with a lot of other talented guys, lifts him. But you have to come in with the right attitude, which is, a degree of humility, a strong degree of camaraderie. And that's working now. You have, he's 25. You got Brody Mioki, who's around 21, and then you got Hooker, who's somewhere south of 30. We won't say what, but in that lightweight crew, you got Byron Shivers, who's back in the gym, who'll eventually be down to welterweight. So you've got a whole bunch of relatively young guys at a similar level. So it's a good environment for him to be in, and he's of tremendous benefit to the rest of the guys in the gym as well.
He had a bit of time off after his last fight. What are you looking for?
We're looking early next year, probably January, February. Obviously Sydney's coming up. The fact that he fought in Sydney last time is to his advantage as well. He's someone who'll be familiar. And he might get a little bit of that home country advantage or second home country advantage. I think probably February could be a good shot for him. We just have to take opportunities carefully now. He's in the most difficult division. The lightweights is just replete with talent. A lot of super talented guys in that division, and we need to navigate him through that. There is no easy fights, and he's still learning on the job. The thing is, for a guy who's had 30 fights, he's still improving. He's showing improvement every fight, and that is literally what you need to see. There's a little bit of, your Cam Ralston who had a couple of losses and came back, where he had that loss on the Contender Series and came back and forged his way through. Some fights that were easier, some fights that weren't. But he's gone out and he's had KOs in his last two fights, including his UFC debut. You look for a guy who will learn from his losses and continue to show the ability to grind and improve his skill set. And so Rong Ju's like that. Cam Ralston is captain of Team China, as we've appointed him, also like that.
Talking about lightweight, I see the UFC are here filming Dan today. How's Dan's progress?
Dan's progress is Hooker-esque. Obviously he's coming off a bit of a layoff with that hand injury. It was an enforced layoff, but he's been in the gym for a while. He was kicking as soon as he could kick. As soon as he was able to punch, he punched. He's getting there, and there's a lot of runs already in the bank. There's a lot of muscle memory. There's a lot of unique things about Dan that no other fighter in the world has. that you know that he'll pull on when the lights come on, and the first bell rings. So he's tracking nicely.
Carlos isn't back yet, or is he back at
Carlos has been in and out. He obviously had to go to Dubai to do some promotional stuff this weekend, or this past weekend rather. But he'll be back in the gym soon. We're just waiting to hear, what direction that they're going to go there. Obviously, Pereira's the champion. We know Pereira well. There's noises that maybe he might go up. We don't know. But we know who's likely to be, next cab off the rank. There's only a couple of fighters in there, so we're just quietly, doing our preparation. And Carlos will be back, and we'll all be training over Christmas anyway. We haven't had Christmas and New Year's for over a decade, so why would anything change?
Exactly. Hey, Eugene said a couple of weeks ago when I was talking to him that hopefully you might get a couple of more fighters on the card before Christmas, maybe Nav or Cam. Have you heard anything?
Yeah, that looks unlikely at this point, so we had them ready, but those cards are pretty full. So at this point, that looks unlikely. The guys are still training, obviously, but we're not in a position where we've got guys actively in camp targeting particular cards. So we'll just see where it rolls. But everything is now focusing towards looking at January, February, and those guys are in those middle tiers of those divisions, particularly Sterling, because he's won his first 3 fights, so he's on a bit of a tear, and they'll continue to raise the ante for him. He's likely to have another step up. So he's a guy again who's showing he can improve and grind, but he needs to keep doing so because his level of competition is going to rise.
Is he back training?
Yeah, is he? Look, yeah, he's back in. He had a promotion he ran recently in the entertainment industry, which took a bit of his energy for a couple of weeks, but he's back in the gym and doing what he does.
Well, we always have to talk about the scene, the New Zealand scene and the overseas scene, and of course nothing bigger than Joseph Parker yesterday. I'd love to hear your thoughts on the fight.
Yeah, before I go to Joe, and I do have some thoughts on that, just a big shout out to Titus Proctor, of course, who fought on one championship in Lumpini. He got a KO victory in his debut, so that's great for him, great for the Hamilton scene, great for Te Puki Muay Thai and Daryl and Claudia down there. So that's great work. That is a sign that life exists outside of Auckland, that there's some other great trainers doing great work and there's some other great athletes, and sometimes we can be a little bit 09 centric, but I think we should really shout that out.
Yeah, definitely. It shows it can be done from anywhere in the country.
Yeah, exactly. And Michelle Montague obviously made a UFC debut. She trains at her original gym was Core. Obviously, she's at top team at the moment. But it was good to see Carlo in the corner, and Ethan, we'll call him the Sprocket Brocket. But that experience at that level, cornering, coaching, and winning UFC fights is invaluable. So it's nice to see, and it's good to acknowledge those successes, because we have athletes throughout the country. The reason they gravitate here is because birds of a feather tend to train together once you reach that national level. But the more we develop coaching expertise and teams that have produced an elite fighter, the more you're likely to produce other fighters, because one elite fighter will pull up the people who are with them, and the coaching. Once you have coached at an elite level, like fighting, that's an experiential thing. The insights and the ability and the analysis don't necessarily change from your fight down at the YMCA, but the experience under those lights, the pressure to pick apart a fighter who's strategically who is more skilled than the fighters that perhaps you get coming up. That's what we're talking about. So that's great.
Cool. Your thoughts on Joe?
Yeah. First of all, I think congrats to Wardley. Great fight. There was a bit of this Andy Lee Ben Davison rivalry going on in terms of the coaching. So there were some good adjustments. I think they had banked on riding Joe's overhand right, coming back with the right hand to a certain extent, as he did with Hooney, and he does that well. And he was dangerous, and he clipped Joe in the second round when Joe just got a little bit greedy. But Joe was ahead in that fight. He was boxing well, boxing in spurts. I thought boxing pretty well. I thought he'd adapted well. He'd straightened his right hand out. He'd gone to the body more with the right hand. He was bringing the left hook back, which takes him out of the way of both the uppercut counter and the straight right counter, rather than leaning his head to the left. But then, and he'd been hurt badly in that 10th. Joe, I think, just got a little bit keen to get him out of there, and this is a heavyweight game, and Wardley he's a relaxed character. He knows he has power, and as he said frequently, I only need to be right for that split second or in that moment. It was a peach of a punch. The difference with it there was that he slipped the jab and threw the uppercut, whereas the uppercut had tended to come counter offensively previously off the right hand as a counter, but he slipped outside and went the other way, and that was a beautiful punch. In terms of the stoppage, which I know everyone is going to ask, I think it is questionable, but I don't think it was wrong. What I say there is, given the scale of that fight, given that Joe was probably ahead, given that it was the 11th round, given there was so much on the line, given Joe's history of recuperation and his durability, I think also given that Joe had landed the left hook, the only real clean punch in the preceding 6 punches. I'm not saying it was strong. I'm not saying Wardley was rocked. I'm just saying he did punch back. He landed the left hook and then threw a right hand, which missed. Then he went back to the ropes. The next 4 punches, one of which was glancing, pretty much missed. And that's when the referee chose to step in. Now, he will stay. He chose to step in on body language. And look, I don't disagree. It wasn't great. But at that level, and with the game being what it was, with so much on the line, there should have been at least one clean shot. Now, detractors will say the referee's job is to protect the fighters. Sorry, these guys have been bashing the shit out of each other for the past 11 rounds. They are at the elite of the elite. Yes, you can protect the fighter. One more clean punch, stop it. I think the stoppage was a little early. I'm not saying Joe wouldn't have got out of there, but I also think Wardley sometimes can punch himself out. We saw evidence of that in the 3rd round. There was only one more round to go. So I think all those things need to be taken into account. Was it wrong? I think it was early. I think you can make an argument for it being a solid stoppage. I wouldn't make that argument. But I think a referee who has a reputation of coming in too early with such a high-stakes fight should have taken a moment. And we're going to argue about that for as long as we can, because it's subjective. But I think you have to take into account a few things as a referee. I'd also just like to comment that the commentators were so far up Wardley's ass, it was incredible. They were like, I saw Joe making Wardley miss 3 or 4 shots, and boxing well in rounds he was winning. The commentary saying Wardley was putting out of his rhythm. Now that's academic because Wardley won the fight, okay, and great. He's a very, very difficult and powerful and dangerous opponent who's probably going to continue to get better as well. But my God, it was horribly one-sided at one point. Joe would shoulder roll a right hand, they'd scream as if Wardley landed. Joe would land a right hand, and they'd talk about the incredible density of Wardley's chin. So I've been guilty of commentary bias myself, 100%. Sometimes you see, you are more inclined to see some things, but geez, it was a great demonstration of British commentators only seeing the British fighter that they had in front of them, and occasionally going, oh yeah, there's another fighter there, that kid from the Antipodes, Josiah Parker, yeah, I think he's there, he's all right. Anyway, that's just me having a bit of a gripe and a bit of a whinge. But look, I'm gutted for Joe, to be honest. He was ahead in the fight. He had Wardley hurt on a couple of occasions, and he made a mistake and he got clipped. And you have to credit Wardley for landing that uppercut. It was a bit of a change-up. It was an adaptation, and you need to make adaptations at that high level. And when you're gifted with power like he's got, Joe had to be perfect, and unfortunately he wasn't. And in my opinion, arguably the referee wasn't perfect either.
Always good to get an honest and straight up opinion from you, Mike. Thank you so much.
No worries. Good to be here, mate.
Cool. I appreciate it every time you come on, mate.
Nothing like
Thank you.
Nothing like that. I thought I'd stick it.